Morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I don't hold any UST, so I'm fine.
Yeah, USTN, USDN is off its peg this morning.
What? I haven't even looked into USDN, man. Too many algo stables. Like, I get that the tech is being developed. I get that people want to solve this problem, but let's be very real, man. Algo stables have always struggled. So doing them at scale, that was probably a mistake to not like nail the algo first.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you don't know if you nailed it until you tried it, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, dude, going going past 10 figures of funding, that's where for me it's like, okay, you got to that point, like, geez, I mean, even Tether, right? Like when Tether tried out OmniLayer protocol because it was kind of an experiment on Bitcoin, they didn't go past a billion and a half, like ever. They've never printed more than a billion and a half Tether on Bitcoin, or I think even on like Bitcoin Cash, just as an experiment, you just using OmniLayer. So, and that's not even an algo stable, right? They're like, okay, we're just going to dip our toes in the water, see if there's usage, you know? Um, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do know. Well, USDN is the Waves protocol, so there's always some kind of weird thing going on with Waves. They're kind of shady.
Yeah, man, on that, no, I don't want to drudge anything up because we've had some private combos about that. Like, I don't want to go public with anything weird, but Waves is kind of, it seems like we know people who were like all about Waves. And then they kind of suddenly stopped being all about Waves.
Yeah, me.
You're right. So, dude, so USDN lost its peg. That's not a shock. It kind of makes me think I should check in with the Tencent group because they had their own. Their own. It's not. I don't think it's actually. I don't think this is an algo stable though. But they had their own stablecoin pairs in the Conga exchange. But it's all on centralized exchange. They don't ever let that leave on to be on chain. So
Well, with USDN, there was a connection there with UST. There was a lot of FUD from that camp, and some liquidity was being drawn. So it was almost like like an attack, which is interesting because now it comes back. I guess that's karma.
sure. I mean, that's always going to be a threat vector for DAI too, right? Like if for whatever reason the circle just decides like, hey, you know what? That's funny that you guys are making fun of all these other algo stables, but you use us in a backing like a treasury basket. So f you, we're cutting your funding. Like it would just take one decision at Circle to decide to cut off the wallets for the treasury wallets for DAI, right? Like on their USDC treasury wallets. So I don't know, man. It's all delicate.
Yeah, Dai's holding up pretty well, and it seems to be kind of the cream of the crop, in my opinion. I like Dai.
Oh, same, very much. It's become a stable of choice, but it's like there's that always going to be that risk, So it has been a little bit concerned, like when, like on the one hand, right, we're all Do Kwon. That was his big thing, was that he was like for whatever reason he was for a while, right? Dai became like a focus of his attention, just saying like, yeah, I'm going to kill Dai with UST. I mean, F Dai. There's no reason for Dai to exist. Like it got oddly specific, for a while. He got very fixated there. Um, and hey,
Yeah,
Irish
Dai
girl.
won't die.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's just it, man. Do Kwon is showing that he is mortal. He's gonna die, just like everybody else. But
Yeah, the market has a way of humbling people. So, that's one thing. It's best just to not say things where it's going to come back to bite you.
right, well, the rivalries, man. It seems like the rivalries only happen right before something really bad is brewing, and or like maybe it's really more a sign of trouble. So it's kind of like it's grandstanding, like, oh yeah, they're weaker than we are, so pay attention to them because we've got our own problems in our own project. So don't pay attention to our problems.
Well, it was in the charts. I mean, like Bitcoin's going to correct. Bitcoin's going to do what it did and what it does. It doesn't really care. Yeah, sure, adding 40 some $1,000s to or 40,000 some Bitcoin to the supply is going to push the price down, but it was going to happen inevitably anyways. It's just, you know, 69K was the top. It is what it is. Like, people have a hard time, realizing that, hey, the market cycle happened, and yeah, it didn't go as high as people had hoped, but I think that has a lot to do with the whole the fun you see about exchanges and fractional reserve with coins on exchanges. They don't have all the coins. We know that you can't. They're banks. That's what central exchanges are. Centralized exchanges. They're banks, and banks have a history of fractionalizing coins, and here we are, just doing the same, repeating history, or reflecting history, shall we say.
Yeah, man. And that's just it. Algo stables are supposed to make sense in that regard, but then, yeah, because we live in this sort of mixed reality of, or augmented reality, mixed reality of there being these algorithms that are supposed to help certain assets hold their peg when they're on chain, but then you got a basket of these different currencies that are also held by centralized exchanges, which, like you said, it's a trickle down problem, right? Like you can't ever escape it. The fact that you got a bunch of these assets that are held by centralized entities who are rehypothecating and and basically like slicing the pie infinitely by also lying about the size of the pie and lying about the size of their slice, right? Like it's you can't get past their the way they cook the books on the centralized exchanges, even when you have assets that are decentralized and on chain, right? It's like you're there's just too much gravity with all the centralized exchanges and their order books and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of upsetting, man. So their treasury, right, for UST, they literally just sold everything. I mean, this is fresh. Yesterday, I saw in the news that they were releasing a bit of their Bitcoin, but apparently they've literally sold off like almost everything in the treasury for UST at this point. Like we're that close to seeing Luna completely implode, and the LFG fund, right, the backing fund for UST, basically completely melt down. So even though UST is reachieving its peg, it's over 90 cents now, and even though Luna might recover a little bit, like they did it at the cost of completely reversing their narrative through their actions, right? Like they sold off everything. Almost everything is being sold off in order to reachieve that peg. Hey, I see Debate Crypto in the chat. Feel free to request getting on stage, man. This is an open discussion of specifically UST losing its peg yesterday, man. We got to talk about this. So anyway,
yeah, I hear rumors that FTX might be bailing out UST.
That tracks. I mean, there are interested parties that would want to get UST back up to its peg because they're going to lose, right, on their trading fees. The exchange fees are going to, like, in a 24-hour period, depending on their volume, they're going to get wrecked on having a UST that isn't at peg. So that's going to be a huge problem. But at the same time, like, what does that mean for crypto when we're seeing bailouts happen in order to get assets maintaining their peg? I mean, it's one thing when the community decides to do it, right? They kind of band together and say, hey, we love this project enough that we want it to work. But when you have VC groups doing it, like you said, it's just I mean, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, right? This looks an awful lot like previous bailouts that were also trickle down, right? Like, okay, so it's regulatory bodies that are bailing out these guys. Now it's VCs. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, you play fiat games, you win fiat prizes, right?
Dude, 100%. The issue that I'm having right now, though, is that the one Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin narrative only works if we have circular Bitcoin economies. Like I want to see that. I do. But
yeah, it was back in 2014. I realized that within Bitcoin's technology, you can actually audit an exchange, and that exchanges could build trust with the public by showing, especially after Mount Gox kind of like it all unwound, the market went down, people were wrecked. It was like, well, within Bitcoin's technology, we can actually audit, and people can see, hey, exchanges have the funds, and the funds are safe, and that builds, that's a layer of trust. Uh, and here we are, 2022, right? And you don't see any exchanges doing that. Why? Why won't they just say, hey, look, we have everything's accounted for right here. Here's the books. People want to audit the Fed, but they don't want to audit exchanges. I mean, let's be real here. I think that actually has to do with the Bitcoin's far more rare than people realize. Being in the Bitcoin ATM business, I myself, many people I do business with, source Bitcoin to resell
Yeah. Also, hey,
to the public.
disclosure. That list might include me very, very soon. Just for the record, we're in
Yeah,
talks.
and Bitcoin's far more rare than people realize. It's literally having to fly people across the country to source Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's so easily available on exchanges, the narrative doesn't line up with how hard it is how difficult it is to source Bitcoin peer to peer. And it's been this difficult from the get go. Back in 2013, when I got my first Bitcoin, it took me over a year to find somebody that would sell to me peer to peer, and it's not changed, except it's gotten harder to source Bitcoin peer to peer. Any kind of crypto, people don't want to give up their crypto for fiat. The whole reason they're in crypto is because they want to get out of fiat. So when people have crypto and they're holding their keys, they're not likely to say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll take a stack of cash for some of my crypto." No, I'm keeping my crypto in cold storage, and you're not touching it. Nobody's touching it. That's why I have it in cold storage. So it just it doesn't line up. Something just doesn't add up. I believe that Bitcoin's far more rare and the supply is a lot more restricted than the price is actually showing it to be.
Oh yeah, agreed there, 100%. Hey, debate crypto. Welcome on stage. Who do we got
What's
with
up,
us
bro?
this morning?
How you guys?
Is this
It's Nick. It's Crypto Keeper. What's up, bro?
Hey, Keeper. How are you, man? What's your morning
good,
like?
good. I was actually listening to a TikTok this morning of the guy's got like 300 followers. He must be new, but I listened to him and he did a really good explanation. I was going to ask you about it, talking about Terra, talking about UST, and he said it's really messed up that if you actually look into how they have things set up, they have their own. Terra is using their own Oracle, and basically they're able to force liquidation. They're basically able to force the consensus mechanism not to basically force it out of consensus, and it's forcing liquidations, and then they're sitting there because it's off of their Oracle. They're sitting there waiting to buy up the liquidation lower prices that they're on their own freaking platform. Do you know what I'm saying?
Wow, it tracks. No, it tracks. The entire system is borked. to your point, man. Like, so a couple other little pieces to that puzzle, though, is that the narrative about UST being backed by Bitcoin is also, it's not the full story, man. It's an algo stable that kicked off, that was started by having Luna be the algorithmic backing, right? And there was a totally separate fund. In fact, if like right now, you can't find on chain how UST could be backed by Bitcoin because it isn't. It was a totally separate fund.
It's a theoretical idea. They're basically saying, hey, we're going to hold all of this, and since we're going to hold all of this, you should trust us with your funds. That's what it kind of seems like to me.
That's absolutely right. 100%. Yeah. So it's a really cool narrative. It's a great investor narrative. I'm not going to call it what it is. For VCs and for anybody else who would be involved in the space, that kind of an investor narrative, it really plays. So kudos to them for that or whatever. But for those of us who are looking for on-chain assurances, it does nothing, right? At all, right? We can't follow the breadcrumbs over to a smart contract that lets us claim Bitcoin in exchange for a UST. So instead of it being some kind of a gold-backed dollar, so to speak, or a digital gold-backed dollar, it's just like it's just Luna at the end of the day. But like what you're saying, if that's true, then it's not even really that. It's their own little internal R bot helping them scoop up dips.
They're helping them scoop their own dips. Yeah. Well, so again, now I have no proof. I listened to it. He explained it very eloquently, and I listened to it, and I was like, wow, if that's true, they're essentially able to buy their own dips, and basically forcing liquidations on their own people, which would be super freaking sketchy. That would be super messed up. But theoretically, right now, if you believed in UST, at least last I checked this morning, it was down to like 91 cents or 92 cents. So theoretically, if you were a stablecoin guy waiting, wanted to have dry powder on the sidelines and believed that they were going to get this peg back on track, you could scoop this up at about a 10% discount. And if you were putting some large numbers on it, you put $1 million, there's an extra 10 grand real quick or whatever. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see if they're able to get this peg back on.
Well, UST was down to 62 cents.
62 cents.
No, guys. No. It wicked down to 60.25.
Oh, I
lower than
see
61
that.
cents.
I saw it jump to 91 cents, and I was like, "Oh man, the market's in trouble." But I didn't see that it wicked down that far. Holy crap!
Yeah, Binance wouldn't even let anybody sell their.
Of course they wouldn't.
Yeah, below 70 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, FTX too. I mean, yeah, all the centralized exchanges were like, "Whoa, y'all are going to make money? We can't have any of that.
We can't have you guys making money. That's our job. That's not your job."
Yeah. Hey, Sherpa, thanks for jumping in, man. I see Sherpa and IrishCo Crypto. It's the OG fam in the audience. Appreciate you guys being here supporting. This is kind of a first for me. Just decided this morning, it was like, hey, it's timely, right? This news is fresh. Some of us are hearing like bits and pieces. It's hard to get all the info just by looking at the news outlets. So, I mean, really, Nick, thanks for that last little bit there. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yesterday, because you understand a lot of the technical side of things way better than a lot of us do, or I'll speak for myself, a lot better than I do. You should look into that. And actually, I'll tell you what, I forwarded that video over to somebody. I'm going to forward it over to you. You should listen to how he explains it. I did a terrible job of explaining it. You should listen to how he explains it, and then we can chat about it again.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, maybe we start doing, I mean, TikTok is kind of like, it's becoming, TikTok and now Twitter Spaces are becoming sort of my publishing platform of choice. YouTube's great, but prepping the content, just the speed of execution is so much faster on those platforms. So I think, until we launch the second channel, I think Mind Your Biz is going to be a lot more heavily focused on the short form there. Or if we're going to do long form, it'll be like this. It'll be like free flow. So yeah, I call it the morning shit post, guys, just because that's, I mean, we're not exactly shit posting because that's easy, right? It's easy to make fun of these guys and be like, oh, you wicked down to 60% of your value. What's hard is rebuilding these projects and then having some kind of like community accountability, like demanding that they be better, right? Like, hey, like prove to us that you are going to be a project that we want to actually put our value into for LP or for buying or whatever else. Like if you want that dry powder, I mean, who in the right mind is going to put it in UST right now? Not me, right? Like, so how do you keep them accountable?
And Anchor Protocol has looked so, I have not played around with it too much, but I had a moment maybe a month ago where I was like, you know what, I really want all this dry powder I have sitting around to really work for me. And I don't even know why I didn't, but I just felt a little some type of way about it. It was very enticing. I mean, 19, 20, 21%, 18.5%. It makes a whole lot of sense. But the thing is like, it's not sustainable. You can't, the math doesn't work. I'm such a math guy. If you start working that out and you start telling, I mean, because if it was sustainable, it can't be, right? Like you can't just tell everybody, hey, just park your funds here and we'll give everybody 19%. So the whole world's just going to get rich. Just continue to stack your bags. It's not a real thing. So at some point, somebody is going to get served. Somebody is going to get wrecked.
Yeah, man. I mean, whatever people think about like the more centralized groups, the Celsius and the crypto.coms and whatever else, that these centralized groups that were offering yield, they actually did the responsible thing by saying, hey, we got to cut yield. And they just came out and said it, changed their policies. Like you're saying.
Sucks.
I mean,
but I get it. I also think the banks are stepping in and saying, hey, listen, you're on our turf right now, and if you want to play ball, you're going to have to drop I mean, that's what we're looking at. These exchanges are turning into banks, which is the, not the crypto, thesis, so to speak. So I'm interested to see where it heads if they start just flat out bowing down and doing what what our government and our banks are telling them that they need to do. But so far, that's what it looks to me like they've been doing.
Yeah, and I think like you're saying, as far as Anchor Protocol, as far as it being pie in the sky with those expected returns, right? The yield numbers that they've been advertising for so long. mean, with how centralized it obviously is, and I am going to look further into that UST, that the potential like internal ARB smart contract, and Sherpa, I see you in the audience, man. I'll hit you up on Discord. Maybe we take a look at this contract together, because this sounds sketch. It sounds really juicy, actually, digging into that. But if it's really as centralized as you're saying, or gives them the opportunity to really scoop their own dips, and it basically functions more like an ARB bot than an actual like proper liquidation protocol, then I mean, what's stopping them from just kind of being straightforward with people and saying, yeah, yield isn't as high as it was. It's not really 19%, right?
Tomorrow,
I mean, they've said
tomorrow
that.
night's I don't know what you're doing, Seth, but tomorrow night is What If Wednesday. Maybe if you get a chance, I'll send you over this video. If you can take a peek at it, if you feel like you get something good out of it after checking it out, we could do a little What If Wednesday, like what if this is not as it appears to be, and talk about what they're actually doing in the background versus what it's being front. You know what I mean? What it's being shown to the people as.
Sure, man. Yeah, I'll take a look. And I'm always down for the What If Wednesday. You know, like we can we can
Oh yeah, they're
slap
always
the
fun.
tinfoil hats on.
That's right.
Well, one of the best things that can come from this whole event is a lot of people are going to be taking a magnifying glass to UST and other stable coins, and they're going to be a lot more critical in a good way, and looking through and seeing what's going to happen, what potentially can happen, and what has happened. I mean, their whole reputation is kind of destroyed from this, which is, in order to build that reputation back, I don't know if they ever can.
Yeah, man. Trust is it's a fragile thing. And you know, for over a decade now, we're saying verify, don't trust, and everybody new to the space is coming in like, oh no, this peg will hold. Just trust us. Come on, man. We know better. We should.
Yeah, totally agree. It's really it proves out time and time again. We especially, this is one of the best thing about altcoins, is that you see things that would never happen on Bitcoin play out. Things that would never in a million years ever get past, like Bitcoin maxis wouldn't let it happen. Bitcoiners in general are like, nope, not going to let it happen. And then somebody's going to go over here, create an altcoin, and say, well, we'll do it here. We're going to create our sandbox. And that's one of the things I liked about altcoins over the years, is trying things out and seeing how they break and how they break viciously. But you see, it's an experiment. And this is one of the things people don't realize. When you're messing with an experiment that has real people's money in it, you're risking people's money, and that's a huge liability. So if you're going to be attracting billions and billions of dollars, you better be careful.
Where do we see? I'd love to hear you guys' input. Where do you guys see the rest of the market headed right now? We see so many people point to, back to 2017 and back to 2013, and like, basically pointing back, but things truly, in 2017 the big thing was like, it's different this time. It's different this time, and we all were warning people coming into this run, like to not tell people that same phrase, because a lot of people, including myself, realized how different it wasn't, and we went into a flat out bear market at the start of 2018, or the end of 2017, start of 2018, whatever. I'm interested to see. We didn't have, everybody's pointing back to history, we didn't have this massive blow off top, unless we're just saying that, hey, 69K, this is going to start to chill out the total amount of liquidity that's coming into the markets. With not having that blow off top, I guess my question is, are we going to see this extended bear market, or are we thinking that this is going to be a little bit different? Are we going to just range a whole lot? What are your thoughts in the group?
Well, I think that what happened was we had a huge injection of fiat into the entire system over a 2-year period. And that's like throwing gasoline on a fire, and all that money flowed into speculative assets. And we saw that with like GME, with the stock trader boys, but same thing with crypto. And it kickstart the bull market earlier than normal. And with that earlier than normal, we also saw the downtrend began earlier than normal. And we saw a rapid rise. I mean, it literally went from like 3K up to $69,000. And that's a substantial rise in price for Bitcoin. and it happened quickly. And if you think of if you throw a bunch of fuel on a fire, what happens? That fuel burns up quickly, and then the fire goes out. Like it tends to like smolder and just barely even continue on. So I think it's kind of like that. It's like a flash, and it was a flash pump, and now we've been in a bear market. Last December, I said, it's 69K at the top, right, guys, and I was pretty sure it was. And now I'm looking at, hey, yeah, we could see under 20K, and most likely, I'm not, I'm not being bearish. I'm just being realistic here. This is just how there's other world events going on, which is kind of causing the entire economy to get hurt. And if people aren't making money, can they stack more cryptocurrency? Not likely. But you also look towards silver and gold. So if we go through a economic crisis, which I think that we're already well into one, it typically takes like 9 months until the precious metals would pop off after stocks went down big time, and we're seeing stocks go down big time right now. So maybe 6 to 9 months from now, we'll see Bitcoin will turn around, and that's kind of like my time frame of things. Either way, it doesn't really matter to me because I think of cryptocurrency as a way to, I don't really care what the price is, just as long as I'm stacking it. That's why I work in, Bitcoin related businesses, because it's a way for me to stack cryptocurrency. I didn't care in, 2014 through 16 what the price of Bitcoin was. I was just like, I need Bitcoin, I need to stack Bitcoin. And it became irrelevant what the price was, because I got the price way lower than what I sold it for.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I agree with that also. So, hey, Nick, my take on it is that also without sounding bearish, right? Like I agree with Keith actually. It's big time, possibly lower than 20K vibes from where I'm sitting, and I've been pretty consistent about that. No, I'm not going to like doom post and forecast a $10,000 Bitcoin price. I think that there are people who are ultra bearish, and I think there's no reason to be, because our current unit of account is already kind of makes up for that delta. So let me be more clear. $33,000 Bitcoin today is not the same as $33,000 Bitcoin from a year ago. And let me be even more clear. It's not just because the trend was up then and the trend is down now. It's because the value of a dollar is minimum 8.5% less today than it was then, right? So everybody, nobody's pricing that in. Nobody's talking about how that's priced in. How we're actually already even lower than 33K, because a dollar isn't even 33K anymore, right? $33,000 isn't even $33,000. And I mean, that's the Fed admitting that we're minimum 8.5% down. I think you and I talked about it. I suspect we're actually already double digits, and we're somewhere closer to 12%, like in actual
at least
inflation, right?
If not higher.
Yeah. I mean, we're paying that at the pump. We're paying that for a gallon of milk. Certainly,
it's about 18% a year for the past 2 years. So, and if you think of 2017 dollars, well, Bitcoin's basically got $15,000 worth of purchasing power right now. I know, because I spent Bitcoin in 2017, and the thing that I spent Bitcoin on, like a used car, is worth twice as much than it was then, and I don't understand it.
Oh my gosh, are you going to Fiat farm by selling used cars, man? You're getting the used car business here?
Yeah, I'm thinking about dropping a new engine in it and then selling it for Bitcoin, getting my Bitcoin back.
The other thing that I see there's been a lot of, I don't want to call them distractions, because I think they're good things, and I think that they're important for the movement of the crypto space as a whole, because crypto is a technology and it is a movement. But I also think a lot of the liquid money that would have otherwise dropped into Bitcoin, into ETH, I believe has dropped into, now we've got an NFT project that we're coming out with soon. So I'm definitely not talking down on NFTs, but I think that a lot of money went into NFTs and a lot of money into shit coins. I have been one of the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? I've been very vocally against the crap coins, because I think that they get new people to the market wrecked in this idea that they're going to get rich tomorrow. And I just don't think it's good. But I think I know a ton of money has gone in there. What did Shiba get up to? A $40 billion market cap. Can you imagine herding people all over the United States, all over the world, into basically just saying, hey, here's value, and there's just nothing really going on there. It's just a whole bunch of hype train or whatever, up to $40 billion. So I think there's been a lot of money that went elsewhere also that would have propped up the Bitcoin price and ETH and some of the other assets, Chainlink, stuff like that. Also, so I think those have been kind of distractions.
100%, man. Let me speak on that just real quick. I think hey, we got Serpent in the chat, bro. If you're not too busy, love to have you on stage chatting it up this year. Serpent, guys, if you don't know him, Serpent does GPU mining content, but he also does kind of holistic market view stuff as well. So got the word back from him. A little too busy to jump in to chat, but anyway, if you haven't seen his YouTube channel, you should sub. This guy's a gem, absolute gem. I used to feature his end of month roundups on what was most profitable for GPU mining on the Mind Your Biz blog, but that that fell off because of my schedule. But solid guy, OG in the crypto mining space. On the distractions with NFTs and altcoins, Nick, I agree. What's difficult is that you got people coming in, like you're saying with Shiba and then Floki, all these like kind of like so the B grade alts, right? That are like also rands, but people are seeing 1,000x. How do you tell somebody who just turned $1,000 into 100K, or more, $1,000 into $1 million? How do you tell them that they were wrong? How do you tell them like, hey, this isn't typical, right? Like, don't inhale this. This is toxic.
Because I'll tell you, I think my answer is, I think a lot of those same people, just like the Dogecoin dude, they get in, they get a taste of that. Other people are telling them, wait, it's going to continue to go. It's going to continue to go. And I think there's been a lot of people that have seen 1,000 turn into 100K, turn into 1,000.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I've been a long-term Dogecoin holder since like 2013. And, when people were telling me, it's going to $1, I was laughing at them a couple of years ago, and I was like, I'm really happy with, a penny. Like, I'm more than really happy with a penny. But, it's kind of one of those things where I understand people feel sorry for people, but I too was blessed with losing money because it's the best financial education you can get. So getting wrecked makes you realize, hey, I'm not going to just freely throw tens of thousands of dollars here and there, and instead say, you know what, I'm allocating a smaller percentage in my investments, and I'm trying to preserve my wealth and my savings.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm going to go. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go 0 to full Tony Robbins here. Y'all ready? Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Boom. Dad jokes.
I learned a little bit in leverage trading yesterday. I have not been a trader very often, but I've got into it this past year a little bit, not a lot, just basically hedging some of the stuff when the market's headed down, all short and whatnot. And I had like 68%, 42%, and like a 31% take profit on my last 3 trades. And if anybody in here has ever done this, you already know what that does. It's like, oh yeah, I got this. I freaking shorted, I longed, and I shorted, and 3 in a row. I got it right. And then yesterday I'm sitting at dinner, and I got absolutely freaking my ass handed to me. So that 4th one just took away all 3 of those other gains. I didn't set my stop tight enough. So yeah, learning lessons, you know what I mean? That's part of the game, and it's a good thing because it made me literally stop trading. Yesterday I was like, you know what, I'm over trading. I'm literally trying to force a trade right now just because I've been getting lucky recently. It's like stepping up to the craps table one too many times and rolling.
Yeah, right, man. I don't know, man. Is this is this keeper saying I'm never drinking again? Little hungover from getting wrecked. So I mean, jokes aside, guys. First off, I know that we have some folks in the chat who are like teetotalers or who are like, I mean, shout out to J Chains. He's talking about he's done his first week not drinking. So support anyway. Maybe it was a bad joke. I don't know. I'm not trying to be overly sensitive to everyone's triggers, right? You gotta learn to deal. But
we've got too much of a did I hurt your feelings culture as it is now. So no, let's just get through that.
No, fair point. We're going bare knuckle. There we go.
That's right.
So one of the things I found interesting, and I think there's a deep correlation there. I know correlation doesn't equal causation, but there is a deep correlation between um, stable coins and value in general. So if you look at, you know, leading up to 2017, everybody priced everything in Bitcoin. So when you looked at altcoins, and this was the main use case for Bitcoin at the time, you priced it in Satoshis. Nobody priced it in US dollars. Everybody priced it in Satoshis. And then came along US dollar tether, and then people started pricing things in dollars. And now you're seeing, you know, stable coins basically rule this space. So there's a deep correlation with the market with that, and I think that also has an effect on Bitcoin and its price, because people use Bitcoin as the on ramp to get their altcoins, whereas now they use stable coins as the on ramp to get their altcoins. And you also see that with on chain data. You know, Bitcoin in 2017, it had its mempool was completely full, and yeah, there were attacks on the mempool, but there was also people were, you know, there was a lot of there was as many transactions in 2017 as there is now, you know, and we're talking years ago. So it kind of, and there's some things that have been done with Bitcoin, you know, SegWit, bundling transactions together, like so exchanges can send out, you know, multiple transactions in one transaction. These are good things that help, you know, save the chain and the bloat of the chain. But it all that went to US dollar tether, which was on Ethereum, and what's Ethereum been experiencing? High fees. Why? Because all these stable coins are on Ethereum. So it's almost like you can follow the stable coins, and that's where you're going to see huge fees, and that's where you're going to see the on ramp. People feel comfortable with stable coins because hence in the word stable. We're going to find out in the next year or two, you know, just how stable the U.S. dollar is.
Yeah, right.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm getting ready to run off here. But I just wanted to say real quick, dude, what you just said was freaking epic. I 100% agree. When you look back to where you had to buy Bitcoin to get into something else, that's not the case now. So we're going to find out what stability actually looks like with the crypto market as a whole. I think for a long time that helped Bitcoin, and now we're not seeing that. We have other options. We have other ways to get into the market. Man, that's fantastic. I'm going to be stealing that from you and putting that on the TikTok today. So I appreciate it. Gentlemen, I got to run. I hope you guys have a great day. I'll chat to you soon. Seth, I'm going to send that over to you. Let's see if we can't get you on tomorrow night at 7:30.
Hell yeah, brother. We're looking forward to it. Hey,
Cool,
Keeper, thanks for jumping in.
Have a good day, guys.
Later.
Yeah, we got Aztec, guys. We got Crypto Secret Circle, who just joined us on stage as well. Aztec, how are you, brother? Thanks for jumping in.
Good, brother. I'm just waking up here and getting the kids to school, but Crypto Brain is firing up. How's everyone doing? What are you guys talking about today?
Oh my gosh! So we talked about UST losing its peg. We talked about the LFG fund selling off its Bitcoin, but not actually having that be directly tied on chain to the backing of UST. It's meandered a little bit, but it's mostly stuck around the value of a dollar, the value of a stable coin, and the value of Bitcoin and the relationship. I think that's kind of been the main through line today.
Oof. Yeah, it's been a crazy, actually a crazy couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, dude, 100%. Yeah, this latest event with UST, it really is just it's a symptom of a deeper problem for sure, right? Like we've seen the market kind of show signs of illness, but this is this is just a giant one giant pimple on the nose of crypto the last 24 hours or so.
Well, we had some funds in this whole mess in our DAO, and what it proved to us was a weakness within our DAO that we had to fix. So, losing a little bit of money, yeah, I think in the long run it humbles the market, but it makes the market stronger.
Yeah, man, 100%. Like you were saying before, Smiley Gnome, about like learning some lessons, man. It is important to take some L's. It's so important to learn some lessons that way, and not just to think that, yeah, that it's up only or whatever. Uh, yeah, no, big time. That, and I mean, especially within the IBC ecosystem, man, Aztec, I'm glad you jumped on because, what the, so yeah, as far as just like there being a huge reliance on UST for the IBC ecosystem, Cosmos, right? Cosmos Hub, all the related, interrelated projects. IBC is, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal piece of tech, right? Having there be an interchain or like cross-chain swapping as a protocol or as a protocol primitive. Um, we got Default in the chat. Uh-oh, he might get invited up on stage. Let's see what he does. But as far as UST being such a heavily relied upon component of the IBC ecosystem, Aztec, what are you seeing, man? How are people responding? I saw a post from Greg Osuri, and I'll come back to that. But what are you seeing, man? What do you think is going to happen here in the short term with that ecosystem?
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it's heavily relied on. It's the main stablecoin within the Cosmos. Really, I think it's a great stress test. It's not the first time that UST's depegged, and I think that it'll recover. I think there's just too much money in the Terra ecosystem and all of that for them to just let it go without a fight. And I feel like they'll get things back on track. They've definitely had a couple instances, it looks like, over the last couple of days, and now we're still off peg from my understanding last I checked. But it is interesting. They are they're heavily relied on, but now with Evmos coming into the picture, there's going to be some cross like some stable swaps that are being implemented, and so I think what we'll see is USDC, USDT slowly emerge within the Cosmos, and then also there's a new privacy preserving stable coming soon, which is called Silk from the Shade Protocol. So the reliance on UST, I believe, within the Cosmos specifically, is going to go down over time. But in the meantime, while it's still kind of king, I think they'll fight to get it back.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. You can't you can't sell off when you're 40% below peg. You'll force a reckoning if you sell, like, lock in your losses that way. But yeah, man, with Silk, like, so you and I we're in a chat with the Shade Protocol team, and we're kind of privileged to be able to get some just in time information, right? And it's like bleeding edge stuff there. What I'm not familiar with on Silk is whether or not there is backing or if it's entirely algorithmically generated backing. Because with UST right now, man, you mentioned, Aztec, that USDT and USDC might make their way into the Cosmos and IBC ecosystem a little bit more. And for anybody in the audience who's not familiar with Cosmos Hub or IBC, it stands for Inter-Blockchain Communication. It's just a protocol that is built in as a primitive to the Cosmos and Tendermint-based projects. And Luna uses this to be able to swap, like basically do atomic swaps between all the different chains that are in that family, right, that are built on that tech. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool concept. And as a protocol, I mean, it's amazing. It took Bitcoin and Monero years to be able to do permissionless cross-chain swaps. And they still require you, like, lining up liquidity and, actually having a buyer and seller relationship, seeing where there's actually open sell orders to be able to buy. And it's much more complicated than IBC is, where you can literally just say, I want this, and liquidity is just found for you. So that's pretty amazing stuff. But USDT and USDC coming into that Cosmos ecosystem, I mean, what does that even look like? Is it going to be something like DAI, where they're used as backing, and then, like, with some kind of bridge tech like Evmos, used to be able to back up a stablecoin directly with one-to-one backing, or whatever, even fractionalized backing? Or do you think that these newer stablecoins on Cosmos Hub are also going to be algo stables?
Yeah, so with Silk specifically, it's pegged to a basket of currencies. There's a pretty long list of reasons why, which kind of like strengthens the peg. There's like regulatory reasons. There's just the fact that we want more decentralized money, less pegged to any one specific, I guess world currency, and then just the stability of the dollar in general. So instead of it like being USD or tied to any other currency, it's a basket, and the basket holds a bunch of different world currencies, gold and Bitcoin. So it's more stable, and then the algorithmically, or I guess I should say the peg is maintained by way of the Shade DAO. Now this is all like the Silk privacy preserving stablecoin is coming soon or sometime this year, and so it's not out yet, just to clarify, but yeah, it's preserved by it will be preserved by the Shade DAO. So a little bit different. It's definitely different than the Terra ecosystem. There's a lot of improvements made. So, what we're hoping for is that we wouldn't have the same type of issues like we're experiencing now.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That definitely does. I think something that's when you talk about stable coins and privacy, that's a whole different topic, right? Whole can of worms there. Like, so for instance, with USDT on OmniLayer protocol, and I haven't checked recently to see if there's still $1.5 billion of USDT on Bitcoin. It was just last time I checked that there was, and it's kind of weird. Shout out to the Flux network and their wallet Zelcore, where they had the OmniLayer protocol tokens supported there for a while. So ironically, you could send $1 of Tether on the Bitcoin network, direct, like as a second layer through OmniLayer protocol. But there wasn't really a good way to use like CoinJoin for those tokens. I'm not even sure that today there's any way to use like Whirlpool, Mixer, or other CoinJoin implementations for those tokens on top of Bitcoin. But on Ethereum, man, you got Tornado Cash. You got these ZK Snark contracts that are basically, it's the same tech as Zcash. Essentially, it's just as private as Zcash, we'll say. But you can send Tether, you can send USDC, you can send DAI, you can send, I think, one other token, Wrapped Bitcoin. And unfortunately, it's specifically the WBTC ticker symbol, which is a bit centralized. But the point is that like that all exists on Ethereum if you're willing to pay their fees, right? If you can string together enough ETH for the gas costs to keep those stables private, you can on Ethereum right now. So yeah, Smiley Gnome, like you were saying before, we used to have to buy Bitcoin to be able to on-ramp onto other cryptos, and now with these stable coins and the fact that you can kind of add privacy to those stable coins, man, it's really hard to go back, because if you know what it's priced in that unit of account, you can make your dollars private again, right? Before you spend on any altcoins or even go to a DEX, right? You can use the DEX now, and you can have collateral to go buy tokens and coins and stuff, and not have it tied to like just one wallet address like people used to always do. You can have a few, and have one that's just like your post mix, and then go buy coins with that. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what Shade Protocol does with this Silk stablecoin and how they implement privacy. But man, they've got an uphill battle right now. I know the usage stats on Tornado Cash with those stablecoins and with Ethereum, it is very high. Like people have become very interested in that on Ethereum. So yeah, that I don't know how that's going to affect UST right now, or how that might in the future affect the peg of those stables. But right now, it seems like people are really enjoying it.
Yeah, anonymous coins are the way of the future.
Right. I think most people are starting to see the writing on the wall there, right? Like people in Australia, certainly, people in the UK. I mean, the latest legislation there telling everyone that they're, that the British government is very interested in all of your crypto transactions now, and and reserves the right to come take all your stuff. So yeah, hopefully, man. Privacy is important, man. I think a lot of people lose sight of that with all this stuff. But I mean, yeah.
I think privacy is definitely the next major wave, like major wave. And I think we've finally gotten to that place in blockchain tech where we focused on like some of the major waves previously. There's all these sub waves, but like previously, you had scaling, and then I think interoperability, and even though these things are still being constructed like majorly as of now, they're working. There's some pretty good chains and layer zero tech that's functioning right now and being improved. But I think privacy is the next big wave, because you have the ability now to have a scalable and interoperable um, privacy privacy technologies now deployed. So from like a usability standpoint, it's just the next thing to add on. And especially like you're saying, Seth, with like all these governments and just crooked actors staring down and trying to just try to figure out how to manipulate different things. I think the topic's going to become more and more important. So yeah, definitely I think privacy's, everyone should be looking into this.
Yeah, man. Well, hey, we're coming up on about an hour here, so I got like 5 minutes left. And I mean, I want to open it up. If anybody who's been kind of lurking for a second wants to either jump on stage, chat a little bit, ask a question. Smiley Gnome is an OG in the space. Worked on some really high profile projects and has seen a lot of these waves. Aztec 2 has been in for several years. I think your class of 2017, right? So maybe a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, class of 2016. So you got some OGs here that can maybe answer some questions if you'd like, or if you just want to shoot the breeze. Let us know what you're thinking about as far as this depegging event for UST and the idea of trying to back up algo stables, not just with a coin like Luna, but also with a basket of other projects like Bitcoin. Let us know what you think, man. This is the time. We're gonna probably shut it down in about 5 minutes though. So let me know if you want to jump on stage. You throw a hand up, and we can do like a quick Q&A just to finish out the hour. But in the meantime, Aztec, you were telling us about Shade Protocol. It seems like you're pretty interested in that. Let me hand it back over to Smiley Gnome and see, like, hey, is there anything that you are excited about right now? Because I mean, it's been a kind of a painful couple of weeks for a lot of people in crypto. Is there anything that has you excited? Anything you're looking forward to?
Well, yeah. What's going on down in Mexico? Yeah, it looks like I don't know if anyone's really paying attention in Mexico, but the chances of Mexico actually making Bitcoin legal tender would probably be the biggest news event in the history of Bitcoin. So keep your eyes for the next, this summer. We'll see what happens come September. But Mexico's got what, like 32 times the population of El Salvador, and we see how El Salvador's been like a main news event for Bitcoin. Mexico adopting Bitcoin as legal tender would be a game changer, especially being right on the border with the United States. But for all of Latin America, because Mexico's kind of it's kind of like daddy, and everybody kind of looks up to Mexico in a lot of ways. And tying this into the stable coins, all of Latin America, they embrace stable coins. I mean, they're not buying Bitcoin for stability. What they're actually doing is they're buying US dollar tether. They did buy Bitcoin, and so something I saw back in 2017. I had mining tutorials up, and you had people in Venezuela mining Bitcoin, and they were mining Bitcoin with government electricity to then use that electricity to mine Bitcoin, take that Bitcoin, sell it, or use it to buy Amazon pantry cards to get food shipped to Colombia to get them food because they're going through a currency crisis. And doing all of this while, under the threat of literal death from their own government. stealing the government's electricity because it's, socialism there, which is, it shows you how far people will go. Now, you don't see people using Bitcoin as much. You see them using stable coins because there's stability there. And so this is like the whole IMF deal down in Argentina. It was kind of a big deal where they essentially bribed the Argentinian government to not make Bitcoin legal tender there with an IMF loan. And you'll see a lot more of that. The IMF is scared shitless of Bitcoin, so keep your eyes on Mexico. We put a Bitcoin ATM in the Mexican Senate building there, which is introducing all these politicians who, Bitcoin's evil until they actually try it and they're like, hey, wait, this is completely different than I thought it was. So big things happening in the future I'm excited about.
Yeah, man, you're going to have federales with a little QR code on their sleeve. Like, hey, you want to bribe your way out of this speeding ticket? Right there, brother. Just, just scan it.
That's how it works down there.
Yeah, no, jokes. Here's the thing, man. Like, I'm right there with you. So I've been following that news with you, Smiley, because it's huge. So congrats. I know that you and your team, you put in work to make that happen. That didn't just happen passively, right? Like, you guys got involved. So kudos and congrats on that, man. That's serious work, serious activism there, and forcing the adoption needle. Good job, man. I know that the president of Mexico actually visited Nayib Bukele, didn't he? It was a recent event.
Yeah, right afterwards. But here's the interesting part. So the president of Mexico, it was completely opposed to Bitcoin. So if it was up to him, it wouldn't happen. But we have the senator there, the young lady who was just at the Bitcoin Miami conference, and announced the intention to make Bitcoin legal tender there in Mexico. And she's quite a tornado. So she's definitely one of us, and she is all about getting everybody on board and onboarding them into the ecosystem, because it's the future. She's younger, so she sees the future, and she sees the future of Mexico. So it's going to be kind of hard for anybody that's in opposition to this movement that's growing in Mexico to actually oppose it, and we'll see what happens.
That's awesome,
That's
man.
Cool alpha.
Yeah, right. So I'm kind of curious how we can tie these two sides of the ecosystem together, because man, I've been struggling with this for a while. I know. So Vega, who's in the audience, Serpent X Tech, he's done a lot of content covering like Flux, which is a proof of work project that also has some really great service node incentives, right? Where it's not like a master node or a proof of stake concept. It's more like you actually run a general purpose compute node, and they compensate you for it. So like being able to do decentralized hosting and stuff. But I was saying earlier on, like Greg Osuri from the Akash network does a very similar thing, but in the IBC ecosystem, right? Without proof of work, it's all proof of stake. So I'm finding myself like intrigued by a lot of the proof of stake projects and some of the promise of that ecosystem. To see how that helps us with scaling. Some even would argue that like Lightning Network, if you want to, like, it's not a perfect characterization of what Lightning Network is, but some people say like, Lightning Network is Bitcoin's proof of stake. You lock up tokens and it builds value because you have coins locked up in this new ecosystem, and it's far lower energy input in order to get coins moved across the network. Plus it's scalability or whatever. But there's some doubt about Lightning Network being like the only way to make Bitcoin scale, because also hashtag decentralization, right? Like you don't just want one of three protocols for Lightning Network controlling all the Bitcoin. So you got wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. I think you've got some wrapped Bitcoin tokens on IBC. And that's kind of what I wanted to put to both Smiley Gnome and Aztec, because I love having you guys both on this particular spaces. Thanks for making time. I know everyone's got stuff to do, but IBC and the Cosmos ecosystem. First off, I'm curious. Maybe you can both chime in. Are there wrapped Bitcoin representations there? And Smiley Gnome, what do you think the ramifications are of using some of those proof of stake chains and ecosystems like Cosmos Hub in some of these new markets where we're getting a little bit more adoption. Like, will these scaling networks, like layer zeros, air quotes, because they're not layer twos, right? They're meant to be, they're built differently, right? So these layer zeros, what do you think about that as far as micropayments and what's the word I'm looking for, and remittances in some of these target markets for adoption, man?
Well,
do you think there's a way to make this work?
I think there is, and it's through what we're experiencing right now, where there's a lot of experimentation going on. But I do not see Bitcoin solely relying. Like I do believe that Bitcoin will continue to slowly get fixed. I mean, we see it in the fees already. SegWit was really about, it took time for exchanges and nodes to move over. And, Bitcoin ATM operators see that, hey, they have much lower fees today than they did a year ago. And they had lower fees than they did, years before. So, and that's not because of the market, unless people, buying Bitcoin, using Bitcoin. It is because, these things take time. Now, the way I look at Lightning Network is it's an experiment. And so it's not something that I personally will accept anything over 1,000. I was just explaining this on Twitter the other day. I won't accept over like $1,000 payment in Lightning Network. Yeah, it's great for tipping. It's great for, smaller transactions. But when I want Bitcoin, I want Bitcoin. I want real Bitcoin, and I want it sent to me, and I want the power over those keys. And that's where Bitcoin gets its value.
So you're biting on it like a gold coin. That's awesome, man. Somehow, I don't know why, but the picture of you like biting on a physical Bitcoin came to mind when you mentioned that. I want real Bitcoin. Anyway, sorry, that was a terrible interruption. You were saying.
Well, but no, it's true, and like in my business, there's a lot of large transactions. I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk any centralization. And the whole Bitcoin ATM business, every operator, there's some operators out there. You have Chivo ATMs, which are, down in El Salvador with the Lightning Network added to them, but it's a very centralized service and it's custodial. So that's a huge security risk, in my opinion. And that's why you don't see operators across the United States using Lightning Network. It's not because, oh, I want to save money on fees. It's about centralization. It's about adding a third party to the mix. Whereas, when you're an operator, what you do is you have your hot wallet and you're doing business with your customer. It is a peer-to-peer sale. There's no third party involved. You're not using somebody else's funds, opening a channel up with somebody's Lightning node. Like you're doing peer to peer. Now, how easy is it for the average person to set up their own Lightning node and actually, do it peer to peer? It's near impossible. So I like in Lightning Network a lot to, accepting debit funds from a customer. I don't accept debit cards and I don't accept credit cards. So I don't really accept Lightning Network.
Wow, man, you pulled no punches there, and I appreciate you saying it, because I mean, this is straight from the mouth of somebody who's, I mean, admittedly, you're one of the most like genuine, like OG style Bitcoin maxis I know, right? On a semi-personal level, right? Like not the irrational Bitcoin maxis, like, hey, I won't listen to anything outside of Bitcoin ever. Please shut up. Like I might do violence.
I'm an altcoin minimalist.
Nice.
I'd be on the opposite side practically, but maybe kind of middle ground, because I kind of always, since I've joined this space, I started kind of seeing the future being more of like the internet of blockchains, this kind of like potentially and hopefully always being this or back when I was joining space, kind of seeing it as more of like the internet of blockchains and the seamless value transfer type system. So I really like the proof of stake mechanism, and fees are very minimal. You can have Bitcoin on these networks because of the interoperability protocol. You can have wrapped Bitcoin as well on something like Polygon, and you're sending Bitcoin for pennies fast. So either way, whether you're using more of like the interoperability, like layer 0 to just send your Bitcoin cross chain, or you're using like a layer 2. If you look at like the DEX volume and stuff like that on any of these Cosmos chains or these layer 2s like Polygon, it's really high. So there's definitely it's kind of already tried and true, and it's been tried and true for a while now. We've seen a ton of volume, especially like specifically Bitcoin, but all tokens, but specifically Bitcoin already being sent. And I have friends in all over the world. I remember when the COVID crisis was really bad in India. Um, there was like some type of I think it was a Sandeep. He posted some kind of um, like humanitarian type thing, and I sent Bitcoin via Polygon, just via wrap Bitcoin to India. So it's cool. I think however you do it, in my opinion, is fine, and there's a lot of benefits from being open to some of these highly scalable and cheaper options to send and use Bitcoin. But I definitely understand the very um, like Smiley's saying, if you really want to like own your real Bitcoin and all that, I definitely understand the options that are there, and the reasons um, that those types of transactions and that way is like still kept today.
Yeah, I think
Amen.
I think Bitcoin's kind of growing into what its use case is, and that's the settlement layer. It's got the oldest chain. It's the first chain, and it's the most immutable, and it's backed by proof of work. And there's going to be um, a huge amount of energy companies are going to be. It's going to be how electricity is basically gauged in the future, and it's already starting across the world. So I think it's going to be what the countries settle oil in, and that doesn't mean that there's not all these other use cases out there for blockchains. So Bitcoin doesn't need to be there to buy a cup of coffee. It needs to be there so I can I can sell my house and settle in Bitcoin. It doesn't need to be there to do a micro tip, on Twitter. These are, it doesn't need to be there to teach somebody how to use Bitcoin. I mean, I have always used Dogecoin to teach people how Bitcoin works, because I saved myself an hour's worth of education. My time's precious, and I'm like, okay, let me teach you real quick. Here's the Doge wallet. I'll send you some Doge. Send some Doge back to me. And they're like, wow, it's that easy. I'm like, yeah, you're now self-custodying Doge. The same thing with Bitcoin. You do the same thing, the exact same thing, and this is how I get them, in their hard wallets and whatnot. Well, that's my use case for Doge. I don't use Bitcoin to do that. My Bitcoin's really precious, and I think of my Bitcoin as my precious. So there's use cases. Ethereum, smart contracts. Bitcoin doesn't need smart contracts. It just doesn't. Okay, it's not built for that. It's built for simplicity and for what it does. Ethereum's filled that void, and I don't see why anybody in their right mind would want to turn Bitcoin into Ethereum. They're two totally different things. So there's going to be all kinds of cool things like that are going to continue to pop up to fill the voids, because like you said, I agree with you. The Internet of blockchains. There's a, there's so many there's so many things that can be changed in the world today that exist in the legacy system that'll completely be disrupted with this technology. And Bitcoin doesn't have to fix everything. It just has to do what it's doing now. And so, yeah, we may not see Bitcoin, be the thing that everybody has. And that's fine, because not everybody deserves it.
Those are powerful words, guys. I tell you what, I love what you guys both contributed there at the end. Thanks so much for making the time to be here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the first time we're doing the morning poo post. I think I've really enjoyed this. I think I might be doing this on a more regular basis. So if you guys enjoyed this, obviously, hit me up with a little emoji if you're in the audience, or let me know on the post, and we will continue to do this moving forward. Aztec, Smiley Gnome, guys, thanks for making time, man. Thanks for being here.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. And nice to meet you, Smiley. Awesome work you're doing in Mexico. I can't wait to hear more about that, to be honest. I'll follow you.
All right. Yep. I'll follow back.
Sounds good,
All right,
brother.
guys. Yeah, I'm calling it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll do another morning poo post real soon. Bye-bye.